things that we mentioned about the epithelial cells. The epithelial cells are going to have cell connections. This means we're going to have a way for these cells to hold together. All right? We're going to need a way for them to be anchored to their basement membrane, anchored to each other. All right? And there's going to have to be a way for these cells to be able to pass materials, which is basically maintaining the homeostasis. Greg, I think it needs to go. Does it need to go that way? To the back? Oh, okay. Okay, so let's go back to a picture of the different cells. And when we're looking at these cells, all right, connections that are going to be present. The connections that are going to be present, they can be found on the lateral and the basal surfaces. So they'll be to this side, or to the bottom. Because the apical surface, sometimes the apical surface is pointed towards space. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's pretend this is a blood vessel. Think about an artery or a vein. The material, the cells that you're going to find at a certain level, the cells that you're going to find are going to be epithelial. They are going to be simple squamous cells. So, if this is an artery or a vein, and this is the single layer of cells, that apical surface, the top of it, is pointed to the inside of the tube. So therefore there is nothing to anchor it to. But I could anchor the cells to each other and to my basement membrane. Does that make sense? So my apical, the top, is pointed towards space, lumen, so to speak. Okay? So what we're going to find, when the connections are present, it can form a permeability layer. Think about your skin. They help to bind the cells together. It will give a mechanism for those cells to communicate with each other. The types of connections that we have: desmosomes, tight junctions, and gap junctions. This picture right here, desmosomes. Here's a desmosome. Note the structure of it, okay? On this side, I've got a structure with what looks like all these projections coming off of it. Got the same thing on this one. This is one cell, this is one cell, this is the cells together, and then those desmosomes are attached. So what you've got is the ability for this cell to be anchored to this cell. So one half of these is called a hemidesmosome. Hemi means half. I didn't know that for a long, long time. Even after those commercials came out, where that guy would pull up beside somebody and go, "That thing got a hemi?" Y'all remember those? Okay. I was like, what is a hemi? And then somebody finally explained to me what it meant. And then I was like, hemidesmosome. And of course, you know, they're like, what? And I was like, never mind. So, half. Now, this is, of course, on the base. So note I've got little projections, but then I've got projections into my basement membrane. This is anchoring the cell to the basement membrane. Isn't that kind of cool? So basically the desmosomes, they're helping to anchor the cells. All right? A tight junction. Usually across the top of the cell, something near the apical surface, you're going to find little structures, little protein-like structures, one running into the next one and the next cell, and just like their name implies, they're a tight junction. So once again, helping to anchor the cells. The gap junction, like their name implies, there's a gap present. So we've got a connection, one cell to one cell, but then there's a tunnel. What do you think this is for? Communication. Can you think of anything else it might be used for? All right, movement of substances from one cell to the next. So cells that are going to be in the epithelial family, they can and will have some of this structure, holding them together, because one of the things about these cell connections, one of the things about the cells of the epithelial tissue is, because of what they do, where they're going to be found, there's little extracellular matrix. So these cells tend to have a tight connection to each other. So the desmosomes, looking like the little projections, we can have them one cell to one cell, anchoring them together. We can have a half a desmosome sticking into the basement membrane, helping to hold the cells down. The tight junctions, their job, look at what one of these things it can do. Makes it, or affects, I should say, permeability. When we talk about these cells right here, they are very protective. All right? Materials that are going to be found in the extracellular matrix, or materials that they're going to be found, like if, for example, in the blood vessels, you're going to find these cells lining the nephrons of the kidneys, so it's going to be movement of fluid. Materials are going to have to be able to either make it across the cell, or if possible, make it between. Chances are, based on the junctions that are present, that will not happen. So, materials will most likely have to pass across the cell. What does that tell us about control? Is this a lot of control, or is it, I don't know, lackadaisical in control? It's a lot. Think about where the cells are found. If these are the cells that are going to be making up your skin, wouldn't you rather for those cells to not let a bacterium through, or a virus? So these cells have a lot of control as to what gets to pass. In the gap junctions, the myocardium, the cells of the heart, cardiac cells, they are dependent on ions moving through the gap junctions. When the heart beats, it looks like it moves as one unit, but it doesn't. It is every single cell doing its own thing, and because everything is so coordinated among the cells and the gap junctions that the heart beats as one unit, but it's every individual cell doing its job. So that's kind of cool. So these cell connections, they are important. The epithelium that you're going to find making up the glands, which is a part of the structure that we get with epithelial tissue. Glands, once again, we're going to have supporting network. That's going to be connective tissue, which we're going to get to. The glands that we have in the body, glands are either endocrine or exocrine. Endocrine glands, these are the glands where everything stays in the body. There is nothing leaving the body. Exocrine glands do, for the most part. So, we classify them by either their structure or their method of secretion. One that is a single cell, meaning that's all it is the goblet cell. That is a unicellular structure. And those produce the mucus that we find lining the openings of the body. The other glands that are going to, since we're looking at leaving the body, the other ones are multicelled, meaning they have more than one cell. Their structure can go from being simple to what looks like kind of difficult, all right, depending upon where is it found, what does it do. So we can have something simple, like in the stomach and the colon. We can have something that's very compound, complex, such as the mammary glands. Now here's the cool thing. We're all familiar with glands, okay, because we mentioned them. We all said like sweat glands, oil glands, ceruminous glands, okay. Their product is really cool. In the video, hey, I can use the video today, all right? You know, like when they were out there playing volleyball and everybody was sweating and they kind of did the close-up and you kind of saw the sweat coming out through the little ridges of the skin? That was cool, okay? The secretion of that substance, which is a watery-like substance, okay, is that. Now, what's the difference between that and this? And this? Is there a difference in the secretions?
One is just getting rid of the substance that's in the cell. Another one is breaking off pieces of the cell, getting rid of secretion. And then the last one is the whole cell.
Exactly. When we sweat, the only thing that gets done, only thing that gets secreted is the product, the watery fluid, all right? So this would be a merocrine gland. Now, when we begin to think about this one right here, breaking off little pieces, it's got the product, and not only is the product being expelled, but also is a piece of the cell. This is what happens with mammary glands, and it makes it have the milky substance. Now, the reason that I'm using that example